This report is submitted to the Attorney General pursuant to 28 CFR, U.S. Code 600.8c, which states, quote, "At the conclusion of the Special Counsel's work, he shall provide the Attorney General a confidential report explaining the prosecution or declination decisions the Special Counsel reached," unquote. The Russian government interfered in the 2016 presidential election in sweeping and systematic fashion. Evidence of Russian government operations began to surface in mid-2016. In June, the Democratic National Committee and its cyber response team publicly announced that Russian hackers had compromised its computer network. Releases of hacked materials, hacks that the public reporting soon attributed to the Russian government, began at the same month. Additional releases followed in July through the organization WikiLeaks, with further responses in October and November. In July 2016, soon after WikiLeaks' first release of stolen documents, a foreign government contacted the FBI about a May 2016 encounter with the Trump campaign foreign policy advisor George Papadopoulos. Papadopoulos had suggested to a representative of that foreign government that the Trump campaign had received indications from the Russian government that it could assist the campaign through the anonymous release of information damaging to the Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. That information prompted the FBI on July 31st, 2016 to open an investigation into whether individuals associated with the Trump campaign were coordinating with the Russian government in its interference activities. That fall, two federal agencies jointly announced that the Russian government, quote, "directed recent compromises of emails from U.S. persons and institutions, including U.S. political organizations," unquote, and, quote, "these thefts and disclosures were intended to interfere with the U.S. election process," unquote. After the election in late December 2016, the United States imposed sanctions on Russia for having interfered in the election. By early 2017, several congressional committees were examining Russians' interference in the election. Within the executive branch, these investigatory efforts ultimately led to the May 2017 appointment of Special Counsel Robert S. Mueller III. The order appointing the Special Counsel authorized him to investigate, quote, "the Russian government's efforts to interfere in the 2016 presidential election," unquote, including any links or coordination between the Russian government and individuals associated with the Trump campaign. As set forth in detail in this report, the Special Counsel's investigation established that Russia interfered in the 2016 presidential election, principally for two operations. First, a Russian entity carried out a social media campaign that favored presidential candidate Donald J. Trump and disparaged presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. Second, a Russian intelligence service conducted a computer intrusion operations against entities, employees, and volunteers working on the Clinton campaign, and then released stolen documents. The investigation also identified numerous links between the Russian government and the Trump campaign. Although the investigation established that the Russian government perceived it would benefit from the Trump presidency and worked to secure the outcome, and that the campaign expected it would benefit electorally from information stolen and released through Russian efforts, the investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in its election interference activities. Below, we describe the evidentiary considerations underpinning statements about the results of our investigation and the Special Counsel's charging decisions, and then we provide an overview of the 2 volumes of our report. The report describes actions and events that the Special Counsel's office found to be supported by evidence collected in our investigation. In some instances, the report points out the absences of evidence and conflicts in the evidence about a particular fact or event. In other instances, when substantial, credible evidence enabled the office to reach a conclusion with confidence. The report states that the investigation established that certain actions or events occurred. A statement that the investigation did not establish particular facts does not mean there was no evidence of those facts. In evaluating whether evidence about the collective action of multiple individuals constituted a crime, we applied the framework of conspiracy law, not the concept of collusion. In doing so, the office recognized that the word collude was used in communication with the acting attorney general, confirming certain aspects of the investigation's scope, and that the term has frequently been invoked in public reporting about the investigation. But collusion is not a specific offense or theory of liability found in United States Code, nor is it a term of art in federal criminal law. For those instances, the office's focus in analyzing questions of joint criminal liability was on conspiracy as defined in federal law. In connection with that analysis, we addressed the factual question whether members of the Trump campaign coordinated, a term that appears in the appointment order, with the Russian election interference activity. activities. Like collusion, coordination does not have a settled definition in federal criminal law. We understood coordination to require an agreement, tacit or express, between the Trump campaign and the Russian government on election interference. That requires more than the two parties taking actions that were informed by or responsive to the other actions or interests. We applied the term coordination in the sense that when stating the reports, the investigation did not establish that the Trump campaign coordinated with the Russian government in its election interference activity. The report of our investigation consists of 2 volumes. Volume 1 describes the factual result of the special counsel investigation of Russia's interference in the 2016 presidential campaign and the interactions with the Trump campaign. Section 1 describes the scope of the investigation. Sections 2 and 3 describe the principal ways Russia interfered in the 2016 presidential election. Section 4 describes the links between the Russian government and individuals associated with the Trump campaign. Section 5 sets forth the special counsel's charging decisions. Volume 2 addresses the president's actions toward the FBI investigation into Russia's interference in the 2016 presidential election and related matters, and his actions toward the special counsel investigations. Volume 2 separately states its framework and the considerations that guided the investigation. For 2 years, we have been waiting for the release of this report, and as you heard here, that was the introduction to Volume 1. My name is Willis Holman. I am a senior at Portland State University, and I realized that there was no audio yet for the Mueller report. And then I also realized that the only plans for audio right now were from Audible, and it was going to be $20. And I figured that with the public release of this information, that there should be more than one platform to read it, absorb it. And so I am here with absolutely no experience, equipment, or anything, recording the Mueller report. All 448 pages. I will try to make the length of the beep similar to the length of the redaction, and so if it's only a word or two, it'll be a small beep. If it's about a second, it will be a line, and then every line from there will be another second of beep. There are many redactions in this report, especially in Volume 1. It is not as lightly redacted as some people claimed it is, so I will try to make it pieced together and flow smoothly, but there are going to be times that it will be confusing. I am also, yes, a political science student, but I am no political science expert. And so if I mess up on names, especially some of these Russian names, please forgive me, and if anyone sees a way I could be pronouncing it differently, or a way that this could help in the future, just let me know. I will try to be as fast as possible about this, but this is a long report, so please forgive me if it takes some time. I will try to record this as quickly as possible, though, and release episodes as quickly as possible so that the public can really, truly absorb what this report says and make decisions for themselves in that regard. Everyone in America has the right to do so, but not all of us have the time to read a 400-page report or the ability to read it, in the cases of some people who are visually impaired and have to wait for the $20 Audible book to come out. This might be a good resource for you. So I hope you enjoy. This is the executive summary to Volume 1. Part 1, Russian Social Media Campaign. The research agency IRA carried out the earliest Russian interference operations identified by the investigation. A social media campaign designed to provoke and amplify political and social discord in the United States. The IRA was based in St. Petersburg, Russia, and received funding from Russian oligarch Yevgeny Prigozhin and companies he controlled. Prigozhin is widely reported to have ties to Russian President Vladimir Putin. In mid-2014, the IRA sent employees to the United States on an intelligence-gathering mission with instructions. The IRA later used social media accounts and interest groups to sow discord in the U.S. political system through what it termed information warfare. The campaign evolved from a generalized program designed in 2014 and 2015 to undermine the U.S. electoral system, to a targeted operation that by early 2016 favored candidate Trump and disparaged candidate Clinton. The IRA operation also included the purchase of political advertisements on social media in the names of U.S. persons and entities, as well as the staging of political rallies inside the United States. To organize those rallies, IRA employees posed as U.S. grassroots entities and persons that made contact with the Trump supporters and the Trump campaign officials in the United States. The investigation did not identify evidence that any U.S. persons conspired or coordinated with the IRA. Section 2 of this report details the office's investigation of the Russian social media campaign. Russian hacking operations. At the same time that the IRA operation began to focus on supporting candidate Trump in early 2016, the Russian government employed a second form of interference: cyber intrusions, hacking, and releases of hacked materials damaging to the Clinton campaign. The Russian intelligence service, known as the Main Intelligence Directorate of General Staff on the Russian Army, or GRU, carried out these operations. In March 2016, the GRU began hacking the email accounts of Clinton campaign volunteers and employees, including campaign chairman John Podesta. In April 2016, the GRU hacked the computer networks of Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, the DCCC, and the Democratic National Committee, the DNC. The GRU stole hundreds of thousands of documents from the compromised email accounts and networks. Around the same time, the DNC announced in mid-June 2016 the Russian government's role in hacking the network. The GRU began disseminating stolen materials through the fictitious online personas DC Leaks and Guccifer 2.0. The GRU later released additional materials through the organization WikiLeaks. The presidential campaign of Donald J. Trump, the Trump campaign or campaign, showed interest in WikiLeaks' release of documents and welcomed their potential to damage candidate Clinton. Beginning in June 2016, forecast to senior campaign officials that WikiLeaks would release information damaging to candidate Clinton. WikiLeaks' first release came in July 2016. Around the same time, candidate Trump announced that he hoped Russia would recover emails described as missing from a private server used by Clinton when she was Secretary of State. He later said he was speaking sarcastically. WikiLeaks began releasing Podesta's stolen emails on October 7, 2016, less than 1 hour after the US media outlet released video considered damaging to candidate Trump. Section 3 of this report details the office's investigation into the Russian hacking operations, as well as other efforts by the Trump campaign supporters to obtain Clinton-related emails. Russian contacts with the campaign. The social media campaign and the GRU hacking operations coincided with a series of contacts between the Trump campaign officials and individuals with ties to the Russian government. The office investigated whether those contacts reflected or resulted in the campaign conspiring or coordinating with Russia in its election interference activities. Although the investigation established that the Russian government perceived it would benefit from the Trump presidency and worked to secure that outcome, and that the campaign expected it would benefit electorally from information stolen and released through Russian efforts, the investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in its election interference activities. The Russian contacts consisted of business connections, offers of assistance to the campaign, invitations for candidate Trump and Putin to meet in person, invitations for campaign officials and representatives of the Russian government to meet, and policy positions seeking improved U.S.-Russia relations. Section 4 of this report details the contacts between Russia and the Trump campaign during the campaign and the transition periods, the most salient of which are summarized in chronological order. 2015. Some of the earliest contacts were made in connection with the Trump Organization real estate project in Russia, known as Trump Tower Moscow. Candidate Trump signed a letter of intent for Trump Tower Moscow by November 2015, and in January 2016, Trump Organization executive Michael Cohen emailed and spoke about the project with the Office of Russian Government Press Secretary Dmitry Peskov. The Trump Organization pursued the project through at least June 2016, including by considering travel to Russia by Cohen and candidate Trump. Spring 2016. Campaign foreign policy advisor George Papadopoulos made early contact with Joseph Misfood, a London-based professor who had connections to Russia and traveled to Moscow in April 2016. Immediately upon his return to London from that trip, Misfood told Papadopoulos that the Russian government had dirt on Hillary Clinton in the form of thousands of emails. 1 week later, in the first week of May 2016, Papadopoulos suggested to a representative of foreign government that the Trump campaign had received indications from the Russian government that it could assist the campaign for the anonymous release of information damaging to candidate Clinton. Period of time, and for several months thereafter, Papadopoulos worked with Mifsud and 2 Russian nationals to arrange a meeting between the campaign and the Russian government. No meeting took place. Summer 2016. Russian outreach to the Trump campaign continued into the summer of 2016 as candidate Trump was becoming the presumptive Republican nominee for president. On June 9th, 2016, for example, a Russian lawyer met with senior Trump campaign officials Donald Trump Jr., Jared Kushner, and campaign chairman Paul Manafort to deliver what the email proposing the meeting had described as, quote, official documents and information that would incriminate Hillary, unquote. The materials were offered to Trump Jr. as, quote, part of Russia and its government's support for Mr. Trump, quote, unquote. The written communications setting up the meeting showed that the campaign anticipated receiving information from Russia that could assist candidate Trump's electoral prospects, but the Russians' lawyer presentation did not provide such information. Days after the June 9th meeting, on June 4th, 2016, a cybersecurity firm and the DNC announced the Russian government hackers had infiltrated the DNC and obtained access to opposition research on candidate Trump, among other documents. In July 2016, campaign foreign policy advisor Carter Page traveled in his personal capacity to Moscow and gave a keynote address at the New Economic School. Page had lived and worked in Russia between 2003 and 2007. After returning to the United States, Page became acquainted with at least 2 Russian intelligence officers, one of whom was later charged in 2015 with conspiracy to act as an unregistered agent of Russia. Page's July 2016 trip to Moscow and his advocacy for pro-Russian foreign policy drew media attention. The campaign then distanced itself from Page, and by late September 2016 removed him from the campaign. July 2016 was also the month WikiLeaks had released emails stolen by the GRU from the DNC. On July 22nd, 2016, WikiLeaks posted thousands of internal DNC documents revealing information about the Clinton campaign. Within days, there was public reporting that U.S. intelligence agencies had high confidence that the Russian government was behind theft of emails and documents stolen from the DNC. And within a week from the release, a foreign government informed the FBI about its May 2016 interaction with Papadopoulos, and his statement from the Russian government could assist the Trump campaign. On July 31st, 2016, based on the foreign government reporting, the FBI opened an investigation into potential coordination between the Russian government and individuals associated with the Trump campaign. Separately, on August 2nd, 2016, Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort met in New York City with his longtime businessman associate, Konstantin Kilmenik, who the FBI assesses to have ties with Russian intelligence. Kilmenik requested the meeting deliver in person a peace plan for Ukraine that Manafort acknowledged the special counsel's office was a backdoor way for Russia to control part of eastern Ukraine. Both men believed the plan would require candidate Trump's assent to succeed, parentheses, were he elected president, parentheses close. They also discussed the status of Trump campaign and Manafort's strategy for winning Democratic votes in Midwestern states. Months before that meeting, Manafort had caused internal polling data to be shared with Kilmenik and had shared continuing for some period of the time after their August meeting. Fall 2016. On October 7th, 2016, the media released a video of candidate Trump speaking in graphic terms about women years earlier, which was considered damaging to his candidacy. Less than an hour later, WikiLeaks made its second release. Thousands of John Podesta's emails that had been stolen by the GRU in late March 2016. The FBI and other US government institutions were at the time continuing their investigation of suspected Russian government efforts to interfere in the presidential election. That same day, October 7th, the Department of Homeland Security and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence issued a joint public statement, quote, that the Russian government directed the recent compromises of emails from US persons and institutions, including from US political organizations, unquote. Those thefts and disclosures of hacked materials through online platforms such as WikiLeaks, the statement continued, quote, are intended to interfere with U.S. election processes. Post-2016 election. Immediately after the November 8th election, Russian government officials and prominent Russian businessmen began trying to make inroads into the new administration. The most senior level of the Russian government encouraged these efforts. The Russian embassy made contact hours after the election to congratulate the president-elect and to arrange a call with President Putin. Several Russian businessmen picked up the effort from there. Kirill Dmitriev, the chief executive officer of Russia's sovereign wealth fund, was among the Russians who tried to make contact with the incoming administration. In early December, a business associate steered Dmitriev to Eric Prince, a supporter of the Trump campaign and associate of senior Trump advisor Steve Bannon. Dmitriev and Prince later met face-to-face in January 2017 in the Chalets and discussed U.S.-Russia relations. During the same period, another business associate introduced Dmitriev to a friend of Jared Kushner, who had not served on the campaign or the transition team. Dmitriev and Kushner's friend collaborated on a short written reconciliation plan for the United States and Russia, which Dmitriev implied had been cleared through Putin. The friend gave the proposal to Kushner before inauguration, and Kushner later gave the copies to Bannon and the incoming Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson. On December 29th, 2016, then President Obama imposed sanctions on Russia for having interfered in the election. Incoming National Security Advisor Michael Flynn called for Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak and asked Russia not to escalate the situation in response to the sanctions at the time. Hours later, President-elect Trump tweeted, quote, "Great move on delay by V. Putin," unquote. The next day, on December 31st, 2016, Kislyak called Flynn and told him the request had been received at the highest level and Russia had chosen not to retaliate as a result of Flynn's request. On January 6, 2017, the members of the intelligence community briefed President-elect Trump on a joint assessment, dated and coordinated among the Central Intelligence Agency, Federal Bureau of Investigations, and National Security Agency, that concluded with high confidence that Russia had intervened in the election through a variety of means to assist Trump's candidacy and harm Clinton's. A declassification version of the assessment was publicly released that day. Between mid-January 2017 and early February 2017, 3 congressional committees, the House Permanent and Select Committee on Intelligence, HPSCI, the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, SSCI, and Senate Judiciary Committee, SJC, announced that they would conduct inquiries, or they had already been conducting inquiries into Russian interference in the election. Then FBI Director James Comey later confirmed to Congress the existence of the FBI's investigation into Russian interference and had begun before the election. On March 20th, 2017, in open testimony before HPSCI, Comey stated, quote, "I have been authorized by the Department of Justice to confirm that the FBI, as part of our counterintelligence mission, is investigating the Russian government's efforts to interfere in the 2016 presidential election, and that includes investigating the nature of any links between individuals associated with the Trump campaign and the Russian government, and whether there was any coordination between the campaign and Russian efforts. As with any counterintelligence investigation, this will include an assessment of whether any crimes were committed," unquote. The investigation continued under then-Director FBI Comey for the next 7 weeks until May 9th, 2017, when President Trump fired Comey as FBI Director, an action which is analyzed in Volume 2 of the report. On May 17, 2017, Acting Attorney General Rod Rosenstein appointed the special counsel and authorized him to conduct an investigation Comey had confirmed in his congressional testimony, as well as matters arising directly from the investigation and other matters within the scope of 28 CFR U.S. Code 600.4a, which generally covers the efforts to interfere with or obstruct the investigation. President Trump reacted negatively to the special counsel's appointment. He told advisors that was the end of his presidency, sought to have Attorney General Jeff Sessions unrecuse himself from the Russia investigation, and to have special counsel Robert Mueller removed, and engaged in efforts to curtail the special counsel investigations and prevent the disclosure of evidence to it, including through public and private contacts with potential witnesses. Those and related actions are described and analyzed in Volume 2 of the report. The Special Counsel's charging decisions. In reaching the charging decisions described in Volume 1 of this report, the office determined whether the conduct it found amounted to the violation of federal criminal law, chargeable under the principles of federal prosecution. See Justice Manual Code 9-27 at Sec. 2018. The standard set forth in the Justice Manual is whether the conduct constitutes a crime. If so, whether admissible evidence would probably be sufficient to obtain and sustain a conviction, and whether prosecution would serve as substantial federal interest that could not be adequately served by the prosecution elsewhere in non-criminal alternatives. See Justice Manual Code 9-27.220. Section 5 of the report provides detailed explanations of the office's charging decisions, which contain three main components. First, the office determined that Russia's two principal interference operations in 2016 U.S. presidential election, the social media campaign and the hacking and dumping operations, violated U.S. criminal law. Many of the individuals and entities involved in the social media campaign have been charged with participating in conspiracy to defraud the United States by undermining through deceptive acts and work of federal agencies charged with regulating foreign influence in U.S. elections, as well as related courts of identity theft. See United States versus Internet Research Agency et al., number 18 CR 32 DDC. Separately, Russian intelligence officers who carried out the hacking into the Democratic Party computers and person email accounts of individuals affiliated with the Clinton campaign conspired to violate among federal laws and federal computer intrusion statute, and they have been so charged. See United States versus Netsyako et al., number 18 CR 215 DDC. Second, while the investigation identified numerous links between individuals with ties to the Russian government and individuals associated with the Trump campaign, the evidence was not sufficient to support individual charges. Among other things, the evidence was not sufficient to charge any campaign official as an unregistered agent of the Russian government or other Russian principal. And our evidence about June 9th, 2016 meeting and WikiLeaks releases of hacked materials were not sufficient to charge a criminal campaign finance violation. Further, the evidence was not sufficient to charge that any member of the Trump campaign conspired with representatives of the Russian government to interfere in the 2016 election. Third, the investigation established that several individuals affiliated with the Trump campaign lied to the office and to Congress about their interactions with Russia-affiliated individuals and related matters. Those lies materially impaired the investigation of Russian intelligence interference. The office charged some of these lies as violations of federal false statements statute. Former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn pleaded guilty to lying about his interactions with Russian Ambassador Kislyak during the transition period. George Papadopoulos, a foreign policy advisor during the campaign period, pleaded guilty to lying to investigators about inter alia, the nature and timing of his interactions with Joseph Misfood, the professor who told Papadopoulos about the Russians and that how they had dirt on candidate Clinton in the form of thousands of emails. Former Trump Organization attorney Michael Cohen pleaded guilty to making false statements to Congress about the Trump Tower Moscow project. And in February 2019, the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia found that Manafort lied to the office and the grand jury concerning his interactions and communications with Konstantin Kilmenek about the Trump campaign, polling data, and a peace plan for Ukraine. The office investigated several other events that had been publicly reported to involve potential Russian-related contacts. For example, the investigation established that interactions between Russian Ambassador Kislyak and the Trump campaign officials, both at the candidate's April 2016 foreign policy speech in Washington, D.C., and during the week of the Republican National Convention were brief, public, and non-substantial. And the investigation did not establish that one campaign official's efforts to dilute a portion of the Republican Party platform on providing assistance to Ukraine were undertaken at the behest of candidate Trump or Russia. The investigation also did not establish that a meeting between Kislyak and Sessions in September 2016 at Sessions' Senate office included any more than a passing mention of the presidential campaign. The investigation did not always yield admissible information or testimony, or a complete picture of the activities undertaken by subjects of the investigation. Some individuals invoked their Fifth Amendment right against compelled self-incrimination and were not, in the office's judgment, appropriate candidates for grants of immunity. The office limited its pursuit to other witnesses' information, such as information known to attorneys or individuals claiming to be members of the media. In light of internal Department of Justice policy, see e.g. Justice Manual, Code 913.400, 13.410, some of the information obtained via court processes, moreover, was presumptively covered by legal privilege and was screened from the investigators by a filter or taint team, even when the individuals testified or agreed to be interviewed. They sometimes provided information that was false or incomplete, leading to some of these false statement charges described above, and the office faced practical implications on its ability to access relevant evidence as well. Numerous witnesses and subjects lived abroad, and documents were held outside the United States. Further, the office learned that some of the individuals were interviewed, or whose conduct were investigated, including some associated with the Trump campaign, deleted relevant communications or communicated during the relevant period using applications that feature encryption, or that do not provide for long-term retention of data or communication records. In such cases, the office was not able to corroborate witness statements through comparison to contemptuous communications, or fully question witnesses about statements that appeared inconsistent with known facts. Accordingly, while this report embodies factual and legal determinations that the office believes to be accurate and complete to the greatest extent possible, given these identified gaps, the office cannot rule out the possibility that the unavailable information would shed additional light on, or even cast new light on events described in the report. Section 1. The Special Counsel Investigation. On May 17, 2017, Deputy Attorney General Rod J. Rosenstein, then serving as Acting Attorney General for the Russia investigation following the recusal of former Attorney General Jeff Sessions on May 2, 2016, appointed the Special Counsel, quote, to investigate Russian interference with the 2016 presidential election and related matters, unquote. Office of Deputy Attorney General, Order Number 3915, 2017, Italices, appointment of special counsel to investigate Russian interference with the 2016 presidential election and related matters, unitalicized. May 17, 2017, appointment order. Relying on the authority vested in the Acting Attorney General, including 28 U.S.C. Code 509, 510, and 515, the Acting Attorney General ordered the appointment of a special counsel, quote, in order to discharge the Acting Attorney General's responsibility to provide supervision and management of the Department of Justice, and to ensure a full and thorough investigation into the Russian government's efforts to interfere in the 2016 presidential campaign, unquote. Appointment order introduction, quote, the special counsel, unquote, the order stated, quote, is authorized to conduct the investigation confirmed by then FBI Director James B. Comey in the testimony before the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence on March 20th, 2017, unquote, including 1. Any links and or coordination between the Russian government and individuals associated with the campaign of President Donald Trump, and 2. Any matters that arose or may arise directly from the investigation, and 3. Any other matters within the scope of 28 CFR Code 600.4a. Appointment Order B, Section 400.4 affords the special counsel, quote, the authority to investigate and prosecute federal crimes committed in the course of and with the intent to interfere with the special counsel's investigation, such as perjury, obstruction of justice, destruction of evidence, intimidation of a witness, unquote. 28 CFR Code 600.4a, the authority to investigate, quote, any matters that arose directly from the investigation, unquote. Appointment Order BII covers similar crimes that may have occurred during the course of the FBI's confirmed investigation before the special counsel's appointment. Quote, if the special counsel believes it necessary and appropriate, unquote. The order further provided, quote, the special counsel is authorized to prosecute federal crimes arising from the investigation of these matters, unquote. IDC, finally, the Acting Attorney General made applicable, quote, sections 600.4 through 600.10 of Title 28 of the Code of Federal Regulations, unquote. The Acting Attorney General further clarified the scope of the special counsel's investigation authority in 2 subsequent memoranda. The memorandum, dated August 2nd, 2017, explained that the appointment order had been, quote, worded categorically in order to permit its public release without confirming specific investigations involving specific individuals, unquote. It then confirmed that the special special counsel had been authorized since his appointment to investigate allegations that the Trump campaign officials, Carter Page, Paul Manafort, and George Papadopoulos, quote, committed a crime or crimes by colluding with Russian government officials with respect to the Russian government's efforts to interfere in the 2016 presidential campaign, unquote. The memorandum also confirmed the special counsel's authority to investigate certain other matters, including 2 additional sets of allegations involving Manafort, parentheses, crimes against arising payments he received from the Ukrainian government and crimes arising from his receipt of loans from a bank whose CEO was then seeking a position in the Trump administration, parentheses. Allegations that Papadopoulos committed a crime or crimes by acting as an unregistered agent of the Israeli government, and 4 sets of allegations involving Michael Flynn, the former national security advisor to President Trump. On October 20th, 2017, the acting attorney general confirmed in a memorandum the special counsel investigate authority as the several individual and entities. First, as part of a full and thorough investigation of the Russian government's efforts to interfere in the 2016 presidential election, the special counsel was authorized to investigate, quote, the pertinent activities of Michael Cohen, Richard Gates, Roger Stone, and unquote. Confirmation of the authorization to investigate such individuals, unquote. The memorandum stressed, quote, does not suggest the special counsel has made a determination that any of them committed a crime, unquote. Second, with respect to Michael Cohen, the memorandum recognized the special counsel's authority to investigate, quote, leads related to Cohen's establishment and use of Essential Consultants, LLC, to inter alia receive funds from Russian-backed entities, unquote. Third, the memorandum was memorialized the special counsel's authority to investigate individuals and entities who were possibly engaged in, quote, jointly undertaken activity, unquote, with existing subjects of the investigation, including Paul Manafort. Finally, the memorandum described the FBI investigation opened before the special counsel's appointment into, quote, allegations that then Attorney General Jeff Sessions made false statements to the United States Senate and confirmed the special counsel's authority to investigate that matter. The special counsel structured the investigation in view of his power and authority to, quote, exercise all investigative and prosecutorial functions of the United States Attorney, unquote. 28 CFR Code 600.6, like a U.S. Attorney's Office, the special counsel's office considered a range of classified and unclassified information available to the FBI in its course of the office's Russia investigation, and the office structured that work around evidence for possible use in prosecutions of federal crimes, assuming that one or more crimes were identified that warranted prosecution. There was substantial evidence immediately available to the special counsel at the inception of the investigation in May 2017 because the FBI, by that time, already investigated Russian interference for nearly 10 months. The special counsel's office exercised its judgment regarding what to investigate and what to not investigate. For example, investigate every public report of a contact between a Trump campaign and Russian-affiliated individuals and entities. The office has concluded its investigation into links and coordination between the Russian government and individuals associated with the Trump campaign. Certain proceedings associated with the office's work remain ongoing. After consultation with the Office of the Deputy Attorney General, the office has transferred responsibility for those remaining issues to other components of the Justice Department and FBI. Appendix D lists those transfers. 2 district courts confirmed that the breadth of the special counsel's authority to investigate Russia election interference and or links or coordination of the Trump campaign, see United States versus Manafort 312 F Sup 3D 6079-83 DDC 2018, United States versus Manafort 321 F Sup 3D 640, 650, and 655 EDVA 2018. In the course of conducting that investigation, the office periodically identified evidence of potential criminal activity that was outside the scope of the special counsel's authority established by the acting attorney general. After consultation with the Office of the Deputy Attorney General, the office referred that evidence to appropriate law enforcement authorities, principally other components of the Department of Justice and to the FBI. Appendix D summarizes those referrals. To carry out the investigation and prosecution of the matters assigned to him, the special counsel assembled a team at its high point, including 19 attorneys, 5 of whom joined the office from private practice and 14 on detail or assigned from the Department of Justice components. These attorneys were assisted by a filter team of department lawyers and FBI personnel who screened materials obtained via court processes and privileged information before turning those materials over to investigators. A support staff of 3 paralegals on detail from the department's antitrust division, and an administrative staff of 9 responsible for budget, finance, purchasing, human resources, records, facilities, security, information technology, and administrative support. The special counsel attorneys and support staff were co-located and worked alongside approximately 40 FBI agents, intelligence analysts, forensic accountants, a paralegal, and professional staff assigned by the FBI to assist the special counsel's investigation. Those, quote-unquote, assigned to FBI employees remained under FBI supervision at all times, the matters on which they assisted or supervised by the special counsel. During the investigation, the office issued more than 2,800 subpoenas under the auspices of the grand jury sitting in the District of Columbia, executed nearly 500 search and seizure warrants, obtained more than 230 orders for communication records under 18 USC US Code 273D, obtained almost 50 orders authorizing use of pen registers, made 13 requests to foreign governments pursuant to mutual legal assistance treaties, and interviewed approximately 500 witnesses, including almost 80 before a grand jury. From its inception, the office recognized that its investigation could identify foreign intelligence and counterintelligence information relevant to the FBI's broader national security mission. The FBI personnel who assisted the office established procedures to identify and convey such information to the FBI. The FBI's counterintelligence division met with the office regularly for that purpose for most of the office's tenure. For most of that past year, the FBI also embedded personnel at that office who did not work on the special counsel's investigation, but whose purpose was to review the results of the investigation and to send in writing summaries of foreign intelligence and counterintelligence information to FBI HQ and FBI field offices. Those communications and other correspondence between the office and FBI contain information derived from the investigation, not all of which is contained in the volume. This volume is a summary. It contains the office's judgment and information necessary to account for the special counsel's prosecution and declination decisions and describe the investigation's main factual results. Section 2. Russian Active Measures, Social Media Campaign. The first form of Russian election influence came principally from the Research Intelligence Agency LLC IRA, a Russian organization funded by Yevgeny Viktorov, Riscon, and companies he controlled, including Concord Management and Consulting LLC and Concord Catering, collectively Concord. The IRA conducted social media operations targeted at large U.S. audiences with the goal of sowing discord in the U.S. political system. These operations constituted active measures, a term that is typically refers to operations conducted by Russian security services aimed at influencing the course of international affairs. The IRA and its employees began operation targeting the United States as early as 2014, using fictitious U.S. personas. IRA employees operated social media accounts and group pages designated to attract U.S. audiences. These groups and accounts, which addressed divisive U.S. political and social issues, falsely claimed to be controlled by U.S. activists. Over time, these social media accounts became a means to reach large U.S. audiences. IRA employees traveled to the United States in mid-2014 on an intelligence-gathering mission to obtain information and photographs for use in social media posts. IRA employees posted derogatory information about a number of candidates in the 2016 U.S. presidential election. By mid-2016, IRA operations including the supported of Trump campaign and disparaging candidate Hillary Clinton. The IRA made various expenditures to carry out those activities, including buying political advertisements on social media in the name of U.S. persons and entities. Some IRA employees, posing as U.S. persons, and without revealing their Russian association, communicated electronically with individuals associated with the Trump campaign and with other political activists to seek to coordinate political activities, including the staging of political rallies. The investigation did not identify evidence that any U.S. persons knowingly or intentionally coordinated with the IRA's interference operation. By the end of the 2016 election, the IRA had the ability to reach millions of U.S. persons through their social media accounts. Multiple IRA-controlled Facebook groups and Instagram accounts have hundreds of thousands of U.S. participants. IRA-controlled Twitter accounts separately had tens of thousands of followers, including multiple US political figures, who retweeted IRA-created content. In November 2017, a Facebook representative testified that Facebook had identified 470 IRA-controlled Facebook accounts and collectively made 80,000 posts between January 2015 and August 2017. Facebook estimated the IRA reached as many as 126 million persons through its Facebook accounts. In January 2018, Twitter announced that it had identified 3,814 IRA-controlled Twitter accounts and notified approximately 1.4 million people Twitter believed may have had content with IRA-controlled agency. Part A. Structure to the Internet Research Agency. The organization quickly grew. The growth of the organization also led to more detailed organizational structures. Two individuals headed the IRA's management, its general director, Mikhail Bystrov, and its executive director, Mikhail Burik. As early as spring of 2014, the IRA began to hide its funding and activities. The IRA's US operations are part of a larger set of interlocking operations known as Project Latka. Part B. Funding and oversight from Concord and Prysgon. Until at least February 2018, Yevgeny Vikolov, Prysgon, and two Concord companies funded the IRA. Prysgonhin is a wealthy Russian businessman who served as the head of Concord. Prysgonhin was sanctioned by the US Treasury Department in 2016. Numerous media sources have reported Prysgonhin's ties to Putin, and the two have appeared together in public photographs. IRA employees were aware that Prysgonhin was involved in the IRA's US operations. In May 2016, IRA employees, claiming to be US social activists and administrators of Facebook groups, recruited US persons to hold signs, including one in front of the White House that read, "Happy 55th birthday, dear boss," as an homage to Prysgonhin, whose 55th birthday was June 1st, 2016. C. The IRA targets US elections. 1. The IRA ramps up US operations as early as 2014. The IRA's US operations sought to influence public opinion through online media and forums. By spring of 2014, the IRA began to consolidate US operations within a single general department, known as internally as the Translator Department. IRA subdivided the Translator Department into different responsibilities, ranging from operations on different social media platforms, to analytics, to graphics and IT. IRA employees also traveled to the United States on intelligence-gathering missions. In June 2014, 4 IRA employees applied the U.S. Department of State to enter the United States, while lying about the purpose of their trip and claiming to be 4 friends who met at a party. Ultimately, 2 IRA employees, Anna Bolcheva and Alessandra Krayovla, received visas and entered the United States on June 4, 2014. Prior to traveling, Krayovla and Bolcheva compiled itineraries and instructions for their trip. 2. U.S. operations through IRA-controlled social media accounts. Dozens of IRA employees were responsible for operating accounts and personas on different U.S. social media platforms. The IRA referred to employees assigned to operate the social media accounts as specialists. Starting as early as 2014, the IRA's U.S. operations included social media specialists focused on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. The IRA later added specialists who operated on Tumblr and Instagram accounts. Initially, the IRA created social media accounts that pretended to be personal accounts of U.S. persons. By early 2015, the IRA began to create larger social media groups and public social media pages that claimed falsely to be affiliated with U.S. political and grassroots organizations. In certain cases, the IRA created accounts that mimicked real U.S. organizations. For instance, one IRA-controlled Twitter account, at 10GOP, purported to be connected to the Tennessee Republican Party. More commonly, the IRA created accounts in the names of fictitious U.S. organizations and grassroots groups, and used these accounts to pose as anti-immigration groups, Tea Party activists, Black Lives Matter protesters, and other U.S. social political activists. The IRA closely monitored the activity of its social media accounts. By February 2016, internal IRA documents referred to the support of the Trump campaign in opposition to candidate Clinton. For example, directions to the IRA operators. Main idea: use any opportunity to criticize Hillary Clinton and the rest, except Sanders and Trump, we support them. The focus on the U.S. presidential campaign continued throughout 2016. In 2016, internal: reviewing the IRA-controlled Facebook group, secured borders. The offer criticized the lower number of posts dedicated to criticizing Hillary Clinton and reminded the Facebook specialists it is imperative to intensify criticizing Hillary Clinton. IRA employees also acknowledged that their work focused on influencing the U.S. presidential election. U.S. operations through Facebook. Many IRA operations used Facebook accounts created and operated by specialists. IRA Facebook groups activate during the 2016 campaign covered a range of political issues, included purported conservative groups, such as Being Patriotic, Stop All Immigrants, Secured Borders, and Tea Party News, purported black social justice groups, Black Matters, Blacktivists, and Don't Shoot Us, LGBTQ groups, LGBT United, and religious groups, United Muslims of America. Throughout 2016, IRA accounts published an increasing number of materials supporting the Trump campaign and opposing the Clinton campaign. For example, on March 31st, 2016, the operational account Matt Skyber began privately messaged dozens of pro-Trump Facebook groups asking them to help plan a pro-Trump rally near Trump Tower. To reach a larger U.S. audience, the IRA purchased advertisements from Facebook that promoted IRA groups on news feeds of U.S. audience members. According to Facebook, the IRA purchased 3,500 advertisements, and the expenditures totaled approximately $100,000. During the U.S. presidential campaign, many IRA purchased advertisements explicitly supported or opposed a presidential candidate, or promoted U.S. rallies organized by the IRA, discussed below. As early as March 2016, the IRA purchased advertisements that overtly opposed the Clinton campaign. For example, on March 18, 2016, the IRA purchased an advertisement depicting candidate Clinton as a caption that read in part, quote, "If one day God lets this liar enter the White House as a president, that day would be a real national tragedy," unquote. Similarly, on April 6, 2016, the IRA purchased advertisements for its account Black Lives, calling for a flash mob of U.S. persons to, quote, "take a photo with hashtag Hillary Clinton for prison 2016, or hashtag no Hillary 2016, unquote. IRA purchased advertisements featuring Clinton were, with very few exceptions, negative. The IRA purchased advertisements reflecting candidate Trump largely supported his campaign. The first known IRA advertisement explicitly endorsing the Trump campaign was purchased on April 19, 2016. The IRA purchased an advertisement for its Instagram account, Tea Party News. asking US persons to help make a patriotic team of young Trump supporters by uploading photos with the hashtag #KidsForTrump. In subsequent months, the IRA purchased dozens of advertisements supporting the Trump campaign, predominantly through Facebook groups Being Patriotic, Stop All Invaders, and Secured Borders. Collectively, the IRA's social media accounts reached tens of millions of US persons. Individual IRA social media accounts attracted hundreds of thousands of followers. For example, at the time, they were deactivated by Facebook in mid-2017. The IRA's United Muslims of America Facebook group had over 300,000 followers. The Don't Shoot Us Facebook group had over 250,000 followers, and Being Patriotic Facebook group had over 200,000 followers. And the Secured Borders Facebook group had over 130,000 followers. According to Facebook, the total of the IRA-controlled accounts made over 80,000 posts before their deactivation in August 2017, and these posts reached at least 29 million US persons and may have reached an estimated 126 million people. Part 4. Operations through Twitter. The number of IRA employees assigned to the translator department served as Twitter specialists. The IRA's Twitter operation involved two strategies. First, IRA specialists operated certain Twitter accounts to create individual persons. Separately, the IRA operated a network of automated Twitter accounts, commonly referred to as a bot network, that enabled the IRA to amplify existing content on Twitter. A. Individual accounts. The IRA operated individualized Twitter accounts similar to the operation of its Facebook accounts, by continuously posting original content to the accounts while also communicating with US Twitter users directly through public tweeting or Twitter's private messaging. The IRA used many of these accounts to attempt to influence US audience on the election. Individualized accounts used to influence US presidential election included 10 GOP, described above, at Jen Abrams, claiming to be a Virginian Trump supporter with 70,000 followers, at Pamela Moore 13, claiming to be a Texan Trump supporter with 70,000 followers, and at America First, an anti-immigration persona with 24,000 followers. In May 2016, the IRA created a Twitter account at March for Trump, which promoted IRA-organized rallies in support of the Trump campaign, described below. Using these accounts and others, the IRA provoked reactions from users in the media. Multiple IRA posted tweets and gained popularity. US media outlets also quoted tweets from IRA-controlled accounts and attributed them to reactions of real US persons. Similarly, numerous high-profile US persons, including former Ambassador Michael McFaul, Roger Stone, Sean Hannity, and Michael Flynn Jr., retweeted or responded to tweets posted to these IRA-controlled accounts. Multiple individuals affiliated with the Trump campaign also promoted IRA tweets, discussed below. In January 2018, Twitter publicly identified 3,814 Twitter accounts associated with the IRA. According to Twitter, in the 10 weeks before the 2016 US presidential election, the accounts posted approximately 175,993 tweets, approximately 8.4% of which were election-related. Twitter also announced that it notified approximately 1.4 million people who Twitter believed had been in contact with an IRA-controlled account. Part 5. U.S. operation involving political rallies. The IRA organized and promoted rallies inside the United States while posing as U.S. grassroots activists. First, the IRA used one of its pre-existing social media personas, Facebook groups and Twitter accounts for example, to announce and promote the event. The IRA then sent a large number of direct messages to its followers of its social media account asking them to attend the event. From those who responded with interest of attending, the IRA then sought a US person to serve as the event's coordinator. In most cases, the IRA account operator would tell the US person that they personally could not attend the event due to some pre-existing conflict or because they were somewhere else in the United States. The IRA then further promoted the event by contacting US media about the event and directing them to speak with the coordinator. After the event, the IRA posted videos and photographs of the event to the IRA's social media accounts. The office identified dozens of US rallies organized by the IRA. The earliest evidence of a rally was a Confederate rally in November 2015. The IRA continued to organize rallies even after the 2016 US presidential election. The attendance at rallies varied. Some rallies appeared to have drawn few, if any, participants, while others drew hundreds. Contact with the Trump campaign officials in connection to rallies. Starting in June 2016, the IRA contacted different U.S. persons affiliated with the Trump campaign in an effort to coordinate pro-Trump IRA organized rallies inside the United States. In all cases, the IRA contacted the campaign while claiming to be U.S. political activists working on behalf of conservative grassroots organizations. The IRA's contacts included requests for signs and other materials to be used at rallies, as well as requests to promote the rallies and to help coordinate logistics. While certain campaign volunteers agreed to provide the requested support, for example, agreeing to set aside a number of signs, the investigation has not identified evidence that the Trump campaign officially understood the requests that were coming from foreign nationals. In sum, the investigation established that Russia interfered in the 2016 presidential election through the Active Measures social media campaign carried out by the IRA, an organization funded by Prigozhin and the companies he controlled. As explained further in Volume 1, Section VA Infra, the office concluded and a grand jury has alleged that Prigozhin, his companies, and IRA employees violated U.S. law through these operations, principally through undermining, through deceptive acts, the work of federal agencies charged with regulating foreign influence in U.S. elections. Alright, so that was parts 1 and 2 of the Mueller report. And what I'm going to do at the end here is just kind of break down my thoughts, make it maybe a little more understandable, Department of Justice and FBI language, and all of the rules and regulations that go involved, can make this a bit of a hard read. So really what I got out of that are a couple things. For one, I was surprised at the number of redactions. I mean, I guess when we're talking about national security in terms of how the Russians have tampered with our elections, it's probably better to keep some things off of the record, such as how the FBI investigated it, or stuff that might give away how they'll investigate things in the future, things that could get involved with national security. At the same time, though, it's kind of surprising, given the scale of this investigation, how much has been redacted. So if you don't know, Attorney General Barr has redacted parts of this report for a few reasons. One of them is matters of personal privacy, others is matters related to the grand jury, matters to ongoing elections, and stuff that would get in the way of national security, and reveal tactics of investigating. So a lot of what was blotted out and redacted was matters ongoing to national security and matters for ongoing investigations. Overall, this report's going to be long, but I'm excited to read it and finally get some answers. There has been a long time where news media on all sides has been really playing up this investigation and really making the American public need some answers. And so I'm excited to firsthand get to read what happened by the Department of Justice and the FBI, which are credible. And Robert Mueller has the credentials to be a credible source as the former FBI director and a top-notch prosecutor. So yeah, section 2 of this report, I imagine, will be the less redacted part, so I'm excited to get there. Anyway, I'd also like to give a thank you to Robert Mueller for the report and the Department of Justice for releasing it to the public, even though that is what they're supposed to do, but it made this possible, and I'd like to thank you for listening. So I will try to publish the next episode as soon as possible,